This must have been the most anticipated live just by the amount of DMs coming through. It is an intense topic that I think many women are relating to in different levels. And it's interesting because my page, and we'll talk about that in a second, is really, I dealt with parental loss. The organization that I run is for kids who've lost a parent. And naturally, on this page, we talk a lot about adults who lost a parent as a child or adults who are losing a parent now. But what's come out very interesting from the DMs is that the struggle of being the strong one, or the insecurities around vulnerability, is a universal issue that completely has nothing, I wouldn't say has nothing to do, but is not exclusive to people who've lost, a loved one.
100%.
So the way I think we should do it is we'll just start each by introducing ourselves a little bit so that people kind of get an idea of like, hey, why are these two women talking about this topic? And then I think we'll dive into some of the questions because there was really a lot of good meat and potatoes there.
Perfect.
Okay. So I got a lot of new followers recently, so I guess I should reintroduce myself. My name is Rivkah Kohn, and I live in Bart Park, grew up in Muncie, lost my mother when I was 9, and my father actually just passed away 2 weeks ago. So I kind of have been dealing with loss for a good bulk of my life. I started an organization called Links about 14 years ago for kids and teens who've lost a parent. We aim to provide emotional support through a variety of services. A lot of it can be found in the highlights on our page. And we service kids all over the from kids anywhere in the United States, Canada, Europe, and English speaking in Israel. So right now, unfortunately, we're servicing about 1,200 families. So there's a lot out there, and that's more or less in a nutshell. Now, just in terms of the strength vulnerability piece, I think I may have said this at the beginning of the conversation, but what happened was that I had sat Shiva for my father 2 weeks ago, and my father had been sick with Alzheimer's for 12 years, so there was kind of a lot of prep work that I did in anticipation, for lack of a better word, of his death. And it was really, really good for me, actually, because the experience of Shiva was beautiful. I mean, I have no other words other than the word beautiful, because when done right, that's really what it feels like. Having said that, I got up from Shiva Sunday morning, felt great, did a live Sunday night about Shiva, felt wonderful, went to sleep, preparing to go to work the next day. And the next morning I woke up like a truck had hit me and I couldn't move. And it was like, wow, what's going on here? And that's, I think, the piece that we need to acknowledge is that we all have highs, we all have lows, and we all have, pieces of ourselves that will be somewhat stronger at other times than others. And I think the biggest, most wonderful gift that I had was I was able to turn to a close circle of friends and say, not working. It's not working. I don't know what it is. And they all yelled and screamed from the rooftops that if this was us, you'd say, take a day and take care of yourself. And you're not doing that for yourself, and you need to. And I really listened to them, and I have to say that it made all the difference in the world. So allowing ourselves that space was, how I came to having the conversation on this page, and then it exploded. And immediately I thought of you. We met once, if you remember, at that clothing show in the Park House.
Yes.
And we had spoken for 10 minutes maybe? But This is exactly what your brand stands for and what your personal story stands for. So why don't you take it away from here?
Okay. So first of all, I want to say to anybody who's going to see this live now or later that I am not a mental health professional. And everything that I say is my opinion from my experience and from my research. So I am not here to tell you what to do, how to think, and how to behave. I am just sharing my story, my insights, and the wisdom that I learned from the women that I interviewed. And I'll get to that, and I'll tell you about that. For 25 years, I worked with ethics and compliance. I was a marketer and a graphic designer, but my experience was, my expertise was to teach companies that being ethical is actually good for business. And I was raised in a family where ethics was very important. My father was probably one of the most ethical, yasher the person that was on this planet. And so I lived and breathed that. It was part of the fabric of my being. And I had a lot of excitement about what I did because I felt purpose. And I also always felt that I was bringing joy to my father because it was something so important in our household. About 7 years ago, I went through a personal loss and I felt shattered, broken beyond repair. For the first time in my life, I experienced a deep sadness that I couldn't move. To lift my arms required a tremendous amount of strength. I started to understand those ads on TV for depression medicines that they show that sluggish person. And now I understood the cartoon, the characters that they built, because that's how I felt. And that started a huge shift in my life. There was one day that my husband and I were sitting on a love seat across from each other, and tears were streaming down from our eyes. We weren't speaking, we were just crying. And the heat of the tears was so hot that I felt my face burning as the tears were streaming from my face. It was deep pain. And I told my husband, come with me. And I took him to the beach and I said to him, you know, I think we're doing something wrong. I think that we're all the time asking and praying for a solution for our problem. And I am a fixer, and on my personality, I'm that person that fixes things. So I tried this, I tried that, I tried the other, and nothing was working. So I couldn't fix it, and that was terrible because I always thought that I could fix anything. And so I was asking God, fix my problems, resolve this is not fair, it shouldn't be like that. And we went to the beach and I said to my husband, first of all, let's collect shells and put our pain in the shells and throw it in the ocean. I felt the need to create a ritual to take that pain from my heart out. So we did that. And then after, and this was happening, it's not something that I planned, it was just some emotion that I felt that I had to do that. And then I said to him, you know, I think that instead of praying for a solution, we need to pray for strength. If Hashem is giving me this hardship, He can also give me the strength to withstand this pain. And we just walked on the beach hand in hand, and just each one having his own conversation with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and asking, please give us strength. And I have to tell you something. We left the beach able to walk in a normal human pace, not that sluggish cartoon that we had referred to it before. And that started a process of me trying to understand what it means to be strong, what it means to really go through something tragic, and how to fix the situation now, because I'm a fixer, right? But the way I saw myself always was as a vase. I saw myself as a vase, as a mother, as a wife, as a friend. I was the one that held the water, held the flowers. I kept it all together. I provided the water, the source of life. And when I felt broken, I could see that vase broken. And I said, oh my God, I can never now be that source of life and put things together, be that container, that vessel that kept everybody together. And I was the rock of the family, the strong in the family, and I wasn't that person anymore. And one day, Hashem creates the illnesses, the ailments, the pain, but He also brings at the same time the medicine. And we just need to be open-minded to see it in the most weird of places and be open to it. A friend of mine sent me a video of this Thai man who was telling the story of kintsugi. What is kintsugi? And he was speaking with a very soft, soothing voice. Now, just to give you an idea about my career, I had stopped working with marketing. I needed a change. I needed to be busy, and I figured, okay, I'm going to change careers. I'm going to be extremely busy, and I'm not going to think about my problems. And I started working literally 15 to 18-hour days. And I really didn't have time to think about my problems, but I was not feeling better. I was gaining weight. I was feeling I had a knot in my throat. I was not feeling great, but I was very busy. And I started making clothing. Now, the funny thing is, those people that really know me know I'm not a fashionista. I'm not a shopper. And I don't have this need. You guys see me in my beanies. You see me without makeup. I'm very simple. What you see is what you get. So it was an odd choice for me to choose to be in fashion. And I started feeling that there was a breakdown. Like, why am I doing this? I left ethics that I loved so much. Why am I doing clothing? And I read a book, Start With Why, by Cynics. And I said, why am I in fashion? And I realized that I wanted the connection, and I needed a connection with the women. I'm an introvert. I'm not a social butterfly. I love being home. I'm family oriented. I'm a homebody. I like nature, so I'll go to nature. I like animals, but I'll come home. I'm not a social butterfly at all. And I suddenly felt the need to have girlfriends and to have a tribe and that's why I went into fashion. But I wasn't feeling happy. And then I saw this video of kintsugi. And when I saw the video of kintsugi, what I saw was my vase, my broken vase. And I saw that I could put that vase together, and I could put the gold in my breaks, and I could be a much more beautiful and precious vase than I was before. And it was a huge, huge aha moment for me. And I started reading and watching videos and documentaries about the culture in Japan and how the whole kintsugi started and what it means for the culture. And everything is in the Torah. Nothing is new for us, but it was a very visual way, and I'm a visual person, so it was a very visual way for me to see that vase, to see that I could heal, and that I could again be the person that I wanted to be, which was to take care, to be a rock for others, and so on. So then I scream at the top of my lungs, I have an idea. And my family runs away when I say that, because I have an idea 25 times a day, and I usually go to do it. You know, I'm a creative soul. So I have an idea, everybody ran away, and I'm like, no, come back. This idea, you have to listen, because this is my why. This is what I wanted all along, was to create this tribe and to show women to come in this journey with me, and to show women that there is joy after hardship. And that's where it starts with the interviews that I started doing. So what I did was, I wanted to find women that had gone through hardship but consider themselves joyful. And I started looking for them, and believe me, they came to me. God brought them to me. And I started interviewing them. And the more interviews that I did, I saw a pattern of similarities between the women. And I was making sure that I was interviewing very different women, young, old, white, of color, of all ethnicities, overweight, very thin, beautiful, tall models, short, not at all into fashion. And I started seeing that it didn't matter. It didn't matter if they're from this country, another country. The pattern of the process of going from hardship to joy was pretty much the same between the women. And I felt that this needs to be shared, because if people understood this in a visual way, I think that there's a lot of people out there that are sitting and in pain, and they feel like I felt that, for me, I was a broken vase. Anyone could have a different visual for what they feel like, but there is a way to put the pieces together and be better than even their previous selves before the hardship. So
incredible. I am just, first of all, this was the most beautiful, beautiful visual. I mean, I can so envision that broken vase. It's magnificent. Before we go on, I want to just ask you, just for in case there are people here who are not familiar with kintsugi, just give it in a sentence. There's so much about it, and they can definitely Google and check out your website. But give just in a nutshell.
So kintsugi, the translation means golden joinery. And what it is that when a piece of pottery breaks, they don't throw it out. They put it back together. They use lacquer. Urushi is from a tree, as a very powerful lacquer. And then they dust it with gold. And the gold is to highlight where where it was broken before. And it celebrates imperfections. It's to show that something that's imperfect could be more beautiful, valuable, and strong. And it's interesting. Pieces that were mended together properly, if they fall and they will break again, they will not break where it broke before. It will be new breaks. And that shows that when you go through that process, it becomes stronger. Something that costs $5 after it's fixed can go to hundreds or thousands. So it becomes more valuable. And that's all to teach us that when we go through hardship and we do the work, and we mend, we become more valuable, we are wiser and stronger in the places that broke. And yes, there's going to be other breaks. Life is all about breaking and fixing, That's the process of life. But that's kintsugi. So that's what it means.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so let's dive into some of the questions. So the first question that we're going to go to, and I just took it in the order that it came, so we may jump from place to place.
Okay.
In your view, define strength, define weakness, define vulnerability. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is
okay. So you sent me those questions before, and I just quickly wrote some notes because I didn't want to forget the important points. So at some points, I'm going to look to make sure that I didn't forget anything. Weakness is expecting somebody else to come and save you. That's weakness. It's you not taking the responsibility of your life, of your happiness. So when you think that this is not fair, people have to come and help me, people have to fix it for me, I suffer too much, I don't deserve it, that is weakness. Strength is saying it's hard, it's tough, but I'm going to do something about it, I'm going to do the work, I'm going to take responsibility for the parts that I'm responsible, and I'm going to make my life better. That's strength. And vulnerability is for you to admit that you don't know everything, that you need help, that you need others, that you've made mistakes, and that's okay. And you can forgive yourself and move on and say, okay, now I'm going to go and I'm going to do better next time.
That's beautiful. And I think that the connection between vulnerability and the weakness, the difference, the nuanced difference here is that weakness is expecting someone else to take responsibility for your life, not necessarily taking the help. Taking the help is actually a strength.
Correct.
It's the difference is the kind of help is when a person expects that other people will swoop in and correct whatever is going wrong in their lives, versus a strong person may take the exact same help, but it's just coming from a space of I'm vulnerable enough to say, this isn't working. Something is right now breaking within me, and I need all the love and support that I can get. And that's okay. Not only is that okay, that's a sign of tremendous strength, which will go through. Because a lot of the people who we're asking in terms of, like, I've had family members who always had to take help. I want to be stronger. No. Taking help in a healthy way is a sign of health and strength. And the only time that you see people who kind of get burnt out by the fact of like weak people take help, it's when it's a taken advantage kind of position where a person sits there and says, oh, the world owes me, that kind of perspective. I think that's the nuanced difference, right?
Exactly. It's being a victim and that victim mentality, that's the weakness. I want to tell you something very interesting, that one of the women that I interviewed, she's a frum woman, and I knew her from before, and I was discussing with her my issues, and she's somebody who had gone through tremendous hardship. She's on my blog. she told me, Miriam, look at all the ima'ot. Look at how much they suffered. Look at, like, they were infertile. They had problems with the other wives. They had to send away their own children. We're not better than them. The fact that they went through all of these hardships is not because they were bad people. They were being tested, and they were modeling for us what to do during these hard times. So I think that a big thing is that we feel that if we say to somebody, I'm going through a hard time, the picture that we're giving that other person is that I'm a bad person and I've been punished. So I'm telling you, if I'm telling you that I'm going through pain, is that I'm telling you that God is punishing me because I was a bad person. So we feel embarrassed and we don't want to share. But the truth is that our hardships, in my point of view, are not at all punishments. I don't believe it for a second. I believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us so very much that he's just making us stronger and bigger and better. You went through one, I'm going to give you something else. You're just going to get stronger and better and better and better because I love you. And so there is no shame in going through hardship.
I love this. You know that I can't contain myself. We did this in DMs, but I think this is such a powerful piece, that the shame perspective, at least in the frum world, a lot of it is that there must be something wrong with me, that so many things are going wrong in my life. And realizing that, you know, we say in Hallel, just for a second, I'm going to bring this in, but Eva ma'asu habayim haisalo yishpina, right? The stones that were thrown at the builders. And so often, things that we think, oh, I'm working on this and I'm going to finally get this right. And then you have things fall and boomerang in your face. And then you're able to take that strength and build on it. You know, I look at the staff sometimes that comes to my weekends, and the rabbanim and people like that who lost a parent as 15-year-olds, struggled, killed their hanhalas. I wish we could record them sometimes. And the piece that is their struggle, they've built so many mountains on that struggle and are now able to give back to other people. That's ginormous. I'm going to start moving because we're going to run out of time before we cover, and I like to cover as many of the questions as we can. Okay. Sure. When you hear, oh, he or she is so strong, what do you wish you could say to that person, right? So often, I'll tell you, this is my weakness. I go into a Shiva house, or I come out of something, you know, of a tragic situation, and somebody will say to me, but that family is so strong, and I'm ready to, I'm going to have a polite way to say it. I'm ready to do something not so nice, right? I'm feeling this immense, like, desire to say to people, no, right? And of course, usually I can't, and whatever, right? But what do you wish you could say and punch them? Yeah, Shalom is okay.
You know, strength is just like a joy. It's not constant. It's not something, you're not strong all the time. You're not joyful all the time. So when we take that into consideration, anybody that even comes out strong on the outside, right, and they're presenting themselves strong, they are also going through moments of pain. The pain is there. The fact that somebody has that strong, how they present themselves, it doesn't mean that they're not at moments, broken and sad and not knowing where to go from here. So we can never say, oh, but this family is so strong. Or I have gone through things that some people ask me, how do you survive? And I ask, did anybody give me a choice? Like, do I have a choice not to wake up tomorrow? I don't have this choice, right? I'm waking up tomorrow. So the question is, what am I going to do with my tomorrow? I can stay in bed and cry all day. I can go to the bathroom and cry half the time, or I can go and live and make it work somehow. So we're all strong and broken
and
at times.
Sometimes the making it work is like you're saying, is a start and stop process. Just because I made it through the first hour of the day at my desk without bawling my eyes out, and keeping myself together doesn't mean that the second hour of the day I won't. And when the second hour of the day I fall apart, doesn't mean that the first hour wasn't worth anything.
Exactly.
That's the piece that we become very all or nothing about, this strength and peace. It's like, oh, we start judging ourselves so quickly, by the way.
Right.
Of like,
oh,
yeah,
we're,
I'm not strong anymore because look at me now.
and let me tell you
What you
something.
did in the last 6 hours?
Let me tell you something. This, what you just said, is one of the things that the women who become thrivers, I talk about the different levels going from victim to survivor to thriver. The thrivers are the ones that really find joy, and they don't speak to themselves so harshly. They say, enough with the bad words, enough with me telling that I am this and I am that and I'm that, and I'm going to speak kindly to myself, just like I speak to my friends. We are so mean to ourselves. We would never look at a friend and say, oh, you look so fat today. But how many of us we do that to ourselves so often, or, your hair looks terrible. Like when we tell ourselves, when we look in the mirror and we say, you don't look this and that, this is the problem. We don't talk to our friends like that. We don't tell our friends, you're weak, you don't deserve this. But we do. We tell ourselves, that's horrible. And the women that I interviewed that found joy, they stopped. They used to, they at a point, they were harsh. And then until the moment that they said, enough is enough, I'm going to be kind to myself, I'm a good person, and I deserve goodness, and I deserve joy. And they start the process of joy. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I love that Kaz threw in this line, strength is a process, not an outcome. That's a great line.
Exactly.
Okay. So how do I tell the world that I want to stop being strong? That's that came in so many times as people said, okay, I'm really done. I'm done with holding this whole thing together and looking like I have it together I'm sorry. And how do I tell the world that I want, this person put it so well, I want to just be a regular person. Regular person with the ups and downs we described. Go.
I love the question because I'm that person. I'm that strong person in the family that everybody counts, mommy, wife, sister, daughter, she's the strong one. And at times I really hated that you're the strong one kind of a title. So how do we tell the world? We don't tell the world, and I'll tell you why. Because the world could not care less. And that really, they don't. No, everybody, they want you to be the strong one. They're expecting you to be the strong one because it's so much easier that you're the strong one. So
I'm
you
glad
don't.
this is morbidly familiar.
So you don't tell anything to anybody, but I'll tell you what you do is that you find those that can help you. You find but you have to be very specific. It's important for us to know what is that I need. What is that I need? So maybe today I need somebody to cook for my family. Maybe I need to hire a cleaning lady and sell my diamond ring so I can have enough money for 3 years of cleaning help. Whatever it is, there are things that we need and we just don't know what we need. And, we're expecting the world enough. You need to save yourself. You need to figure out what is the need that you have, and you need to find the few people that can be there for you. And oftentimes there is another question about family. There is the family that you were born to, and then there is the family that you create. And the family that you're born to, they're not necessarily the ones that are going to give you the support that you need when you're broken. You sometimes need to create that tribe, that group of people that are going to not judge you. They don't have any preconceived information and knowledge about you since you were a child. They're your friend now. They're here for you now. And you're going to tell them, you know what? I'm in a bind. I need help. And they're going to give it to you. Forget about teaching people who you are and who you're not. Just go about your life. Get the help that you need and be strong when you can be strong.
Amazing. Amazing. And I love that you were saying is that sometimes, because of our history with our families, they can't be the ones to do it all. I think somebody was saying is sometimes we need to let go in one area to be strong in another. 100%, 100%. And I think also the other piece is that sometimes we need to be able to step away from a position, right? So if somebody, like there was somebody who was DMing me, I'm trying to remember who was saying is that she's in a position where physically a lot of roles were put onto her family-wise. I think her father passed away and she was caretaking for her mother and everything, and carrying all of it on herself. That's where we also do need to have communication at some point. And you ask, how could you tell? You just make statements. And the statements are I statements of, right now I'm not in the space where I can do this alone. I can do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, need somebody else to do the weekends. It's just that you don't have to give the explanation. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be unkind, but you have to be able to state, this is what I can and this is what I can't. Somebody's saying, I think also by putting up boundaries that indirectly tells them you're not strong, meaning you're able to do not able to do everything for everyone. Excellent point is that when we don't put up boundaries, and that should be said, right? When we do this to ourselves, right? When we say, yeah, bring me everybody. Sure, you can drop off all your kids at all hours of the day at my door. And then to say everybody thinks I'm so strong, well, you're kind of inviting that in, for lack of a better word. Whereas you say, this is it. I'll just throw in a quick little something. My husband runs a camp in the summer, and this is an example that's so perfect because there's nothing tragic about it. It is a crazy profession, and he was upstate in the mountains all summer, and he would come home for the weekends. I know we did the reverse of most of the universe. And I knew in that summer that I all of a sudden started feeling tremendous resentment, and I was falling apart every weekend because I was having guests. Because like an idiot, I pulled the house together for a week, and then when he would come home Friday afternoon, I didn't allow myself to just breathe. It took me 2 years of him running the camp for me to call the family up and say, I love you all dearly, and I am not having you for 8 weeks. And it's a dumb thing, but it's a classic example of how us women absolutely love to invite problems in sometimes and then say, help, I can't deal. So yeah, say that you can't deal. Okay, next question. When I'm under stress, I move into high gear. Then I collapse when I least expect it. Like I will break into hives when I start breathing. And by breathing, I don't think she means physically breathing, although it could be like deep breathing. I think she just means when she takes a breath from the intensity of it. Being aware helps, but what else can I do to prevent this?
Okay, so anything that happens physically, back pains, muscle aches, hives, all of those physical and when it's flourishing, it's something emotional inside of you that's going on, that's not in alignment, that's not okay. And the body is just screaming and telling you, can you please slow down? This is not good for you. The problem is that we ignore it. We are in a culture of we take an Advil or we take a little cortisone and we move on. And we're fixing the symptoms, but we're not fixing really the problem. And those pains and aches and hives and, heart palpitations is a way for Hashem to be telling you, this is not in alignment. This is not what you should be doing. You need give time for yourself. You need to go out and walk on the beach and meditate right now, not to take care of, the neighborhood children. And we're not listening anymore to our bodies. And this is something that you need to do work, and you need to start noticing. A great way is for you to take a journal and start writing down when, in this person's case, if she gets hives, what happened before, the day before, the 2 days before, and if she may start seeing a pattern of things that happen, and when those things happen, they just get to her, and then you need to make changes in your life. I have made tons of these changes in my life. I'm telling you, I hardly have company sleeping over. And I do have the room, but that created so much stress for me. The linen, I'm Brazilian. I used to iron linen. So every time I had guests, it meant besides the washing, the changing, I then was ironing the linen because it needs to be folded just so. Enough, So you start seeing patterns of physical pains is because there's something that you're doing. So then you have to stop those behaviors in your life to not create, because the health only gets worse. You know, today is hives, tomorrow is it's a heart attack. You know, God forbid. So pay attention to your body. Body's talking to you.
Excellent point. There's actually a very good book, which I'm going to bring up, Bessel van der Kolk's book. He did a lot of research on this. He's one of the co-founders of Somatic Experience Therapy. And he wrote a book, listen to the title, it's called The Body Keeps Score. Because that's exactly what the research is that everything that you do, your body keeps score. Now, eventually, your body will scream because you're not listening loud enough. I mean, take a toddler who said, can I have a chocolate? Can I have a chocolate? Can I have a chocolate? And you ignore him, he will tantrum. Your body, essentially, according to Bessel van der Kolk, is tantruming. And if you would listen before, even if the answer is, I'll take care of you later, right? But you kind of in your mind set a time that the body knows, okay, there will be a downtime at some point. It can hold out. The problem is that we don't listen to all those other signs. We only listen when the body screams. And like you're saying, if we come to the yellow light a little bit before and slow down a little bit before that point, you minimize a lot of the symptoms. It's a great book, by the way. It's a very textbooky kind of book, but it's still a good book if you want to learn more about it. I also would suggest that anyone who's really having a lot of somatic symptoms, probably somatic experience therapy may be a very good place to start, because they'll start, part of the process is that expecting you to be able to notice within your body where you're feeling particular pains. Okay, as a mother, I do not have the luxury to sit with my pain. There is carpool, there are play dates, there is bedtime, there is homework, there is dinner. And my husband is not emotionally available to be a partner at this point. So I'm being strong, but I know I will break and it terrifies me. Any ideas for me? And this was, I have to tell you, one of the most painful questions to read, only because this person feels very stuck.
Yes. And my answer to this person is, do you take a shower? And if yes, that is my space where I cry. I'm telling you, I work literally till today between 12 and 15 hours a day. Most Sundays I work. I don't have the time. And I really understand what this person is saying. You know, for me, it's work. For her to be a mom. You know, I was in this space when my kids were a little younger. But my shower time, so let me tell you, I put on the water really strong and really hot. And it's noisy. The fan is on because I take very hot showers. And then I go like this. God, I'm really sorry I'm talking to you while naked. But you know what? You made me. There's nothing you haven't seen before. So now I'm going to have a powwow with you. It's too painful. Help me. And I cry, and nobody needs to hear me cry. And I do my shower, and I do my crying, and I do my talking to God. I get out of the shower, I wipe my face, and I go on with my life. It is temporary. The carpool, the kids, the this, the that, all of that is temporary. Right now, it's very busy. You're driving, you're going, taking care of the house. Find ways to cut certain things from your day. For example, I used to iron everything. When I say everything. The only thing I didn't iron were towels. And my husband had to call me to have a conversation with me because it was a problem. I could be ironing till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. When he convinced me to stop ironing and really only the shirts or something, minimum, I gained so many hours in my day. Look through your day and analyze something that seems extremely important to you. And it is very important. And it was very important for me that everything was ironed. It really, and it's sometimes very hard when I see some wrinkles, I have to cool it, I have to breathe, because I gave myself those hours to use them in a better way for me. So start with the shower, and then look at your day and find certain things to reduce. We cook too much. We make too many dishes for Shabbos. It is not necessary. I'm going to tell you one change that I made. Friday night, I serve fish and soup. There's no main dish. My soup has meat, has chicken. I put a whole chicken inside, and my kids get a very big bowl, and the chicken is there, and the vegetables is there, and everything is there. And there's no main dish. I can make Shabbos in an hour and a half. So it's all a matter of saying, where am I putting my time? There's a lot of people in business that say, you first pay yourself. If you're an entrepreneur, before you put all the money back into your business, first you pay yourself. This is exactly the same concept. First, you need to give yourself a little bit of time to be with yourself, to think, to talk to God, to be angry at things that happen. We are entitled to feel upset and angry and disappointed, and then say, okay, I did it. I did my 5 minutes of being angry. Now I'm going to go and be happy and move on to good things. So change your structure of your life, make small changes, and make 10 minutes for yourself a day. Start with that. It's going to be a huge improvement.
Amazing. I think that one of the things that you just shifted for a lot of people, because I'm seeing my WhatsApp show up so I could just see the first two words, but some of the women who had texted about this feel that there's just a huge shift in the fact of, sometimes we think we have to have a structured time and place and a calm space, and you're saying, we can do it here, there, and whenever we can.
Exactly.
Somebody was asking, she said, you would say the same to someone in the hospital watching their kids suffer in the hospital. I'm not sure what part of it was the same. If you could specify, we'll try to come back to that question. Okay. In my family, people are looked down upon when they're sad. It's so subtle. Like, just if I'll express my pain over something, the conversation immediately switches. How can I get my sisters and brothers to be more empathetic so I don't have to be fake around them? And I think you went into that just by saying is that we're not going to be able to change necessarily the family we grew up with, but we will be able to change, who we choose to be around and how we choose to be around. Okay.
Exactly.
Next question. I love this. This is my 10 minutes. I see people on Instagram who share their battles, and honestly, it's uncomfortable. I feel like it's TMI. My view is keep it together in public. Let your guard down to people nearest and dearest who you can share it with. I don't think it's wrong to be strong in public. What do you think? And also, how do you know when it's safe, who is safe to be vulnerable around and who isn't?
Okay, so first of all, every person that shares too much that annoys you, unfollow. You don't need to.
Excellent.
Unfollow.
We all have different levels. I also will say this is that there's different levels that are different comfort zones for people. Somebody who's coming. When I go to Europe, and I'm a very considerably a private boundaried kind of person. When I go to Europe, I am apparently oversharing because the European mentality is, short of telling you when my birthday is, beyond that, you have shared too much. So a lot of it is mentality-wise. I will say, sure, there are people who I can see on Instagram and go, whoa, that was not from Instagram.
But I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to try to shift your thought about these people, okay? Because I'm mostly private too. I share very methodically what I share, okay? It has a purpose when I share. But here's what I want you to know. The person who is sharing and sharing too much, they needed a validation. Let them get it. That's how they're getting it. Secondly, there are people who are following these people who overshare, who need it, and who are learning from what this person is oversharing, and they're getting benefit from it. So good for them. It's not good for you. I want you to know that I unfollowed tons of accounts that I was tired of seeing everything about their lives. I don't care. I don't want to know. Teach me some wisdom. Show me something beautiful. But I don't want to know about your private life. But I don't judge them negatively. If it's good for you, la briut. It's good somebody else wants to listen to the soap opera, la briut. Enjoy it. Nothing to do with me. When do you know and with whom to share? That is a very critical thing, because there is no right answer. You're going to have to build those relationships slowly. You're going to first share a little bit, and you're going to see the reaction of the person. I had one good friend that no matter what I shared with her, she always told me that I was wrong every single time. Now, I'm quite strong, and I can handle people telling me that I'm wrong, but it was 100% of the time. And I'm like, oh my God, why do you want to be my friend if I'm such a loser, right? So I'm going to do you a favor, and I'm out. And I'm going to look for other friends that can sometimes tell me that I'm wrong, and sometimes tell me that I'm right, and sometimes show me a different perspective, but that has more equilibrium. It takes time. I'm telling you, I can count with one hand my very close friends. And you learn through time who they are. You stick with them. Sometimes life changes and the friends change, but you don't need to have a million friends. You just need to have a few very good ones.
That's incredible, and so true, is that we need to build that little tribe and stick to that tribe. Okay. Second, we're almost getting through. I'm very proud of us. We got through a lot of questions.
Run around.
Okay, I was raised very much not to ever be vulnerable. Oh, this was a good question. How do I raise my kids differently? I have no positive role models in this. Oh my gosh, I love this question. Go.
I love this question. You're the role model, the mom. Nobody else. The child is not looking at the grandparents, at the aunt and uncle, at the friend, at the neighbor, at the shop owner. The child is only looking for what they see in the home. You be that role model. We're creating the next generation. And I want you to know something. I have 4 daughters. And when I had my 4th daughter, people like, I'm sorry. Like maybe, and I'm like,
what is wrong with people? Okay.
And my reaction was, I'm raising 4 mothers. I am raising 4 mothers. I am so freaking lucky. I have the opportunity to teach 4 girls how to be wonderful moms and wives. And obviously I'm going to make mistakes and they're going to make mistakes, but this is my challenge, and what an amazing challenge I've got. So we need to be the role models for our children. Don't look anywhere else. You can be that, even if you didn't come from a home of vulnerability. If this is important for you, read about it, make your right friends, and be that role model.
So I think first of all, I love that I'm raising 4 mothers. I have 3 girls.
You can borrow.
But I love that, about that piece. But I will say, somebody asked me to repeat the question one more time. I was raised very much not to ever be vulnerable. How do I raise my kids differently? I think the only piece that I would like to explore is just a little bit on the pragmatic note, because I think that's what this person was asking. What can a mother do or say that encourages children to be more vulnerable adults?
Sharing with your child, for example, a weakness, right? Sometimes we are so harassed, and then the child comes to you at a difficult moment, and our reaction is to scream and yell. Instead of telling the child, Mom is having a really hard time right now. I'm exhausted. I didn't sleep well. I have to do this and that and that and the other. And I'm not managing. And I am not managing to be the best person that I want to be right now. And you're asking this of me, and I just can't. That's being a role model. A role model, if you want to show them that it's okay to be weak, that it's okay to say, I can't, I need help, or I'm not succeeding. You're giving them the best gift that is for them to accept that it's okay for them not to be perfect, because no one is. So even mommy isn't. And mommy needs their help, and then you scream less, because now they know mommy needs help, Mommy just is not managing, and it's okay. We're a family, we're a clan, and we're going to support each other. And the same thing when the child is not, child comes home from school really mad, throws the door, throws the backpack, sit with the kid and say, when I was a child, Sometimes I came home from school really sad because people didn't include me in the games because I was a horrible ball player. And you're just sharing because the child is not ready to share, but you can share that you weren't that always strong, that you weren't that you also had pain, in school. And it's okay to talk about it. So you start modeling those behaviors that you want the child to it's all about modeling behavior.
Beautiful, beautiful. I saw a couple questions pop up. I want to just do the ones that we have before, and then we'll try to get to those. How does one heal after cracking? We have 8 minutes left, so let's fly.
So go to YouTube, go to Mikah Fashion. There is a lecture that I gave about finding joy after hardship. In there, I go through the whole process of how do you heal. What's the process of healing? And that is based on my research with the women that I interviewed. Remember that I said that they have a lot of stuff in common. So I can tell you really quickly, but the 10 things were they hate being victims. They take responsibility for their actions, meaning they're not blaming the world for everything. They have responsibility in whatever happened. They're ready to do the work. They know it's going to be hard, it's possible, but they're not expecting the world to come and fix it for them. They're ready to do the work. They believe in a power bigger than themselves. They understand that, because I don't interview only Jewish people, so they understand that there is a bigger reason, something bigger than themselves. We have a Kadosh Baruch Hu. They take the time to introspect. They take the time to think about what's important for them, where do they want to go, where do they want to be in 5 years, what changes they can make. They get help. They go through therapy. Some of them need medication. Some of them start yoga. But whatever it is, they find something that they can do for help. Many of them read self-help books. A lot of them told me that they read those books. We could read, and actually somebody, I think, asked that question. So I would say to start, Garden of Emunah is a great book, and also Bilvavi Mishkan Evne. The English name, we'll have to post it after because I
think it has that name though in the title.
Okay. It seems very simple. It's extremely deep. I studied twice in a group. Non-Jewish book, I would recommend this one, the Kintsugi. It's actually a workbook. I know the author. I met her in person, but you can do the work. And it's very, very powerful book.
And I'm going to jump in and say that one of the books that changed my life, I don't know if you've ever read it, is The 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. It's by Amy Warren. She wrote it as an essay, and then she turned it into a book. And it's actually had a lot of losses. Great book. 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do. Go.
Okay. I wanted to take that. I'm going to read that next. Okay, so then there's a whole issue about forgiveness, which I'm going to come back in a second. They practice kind speech to themselves and gratitude. Gratitude. That's the biggest thing. If you don't have time for anything, do that. I do this. I'm showing you a blank page, but I can show you. Hold on. This is a page. This is Rachel Hollis's Start Today journal. So it's like that. And I fill it up every day. Starts with 5 things you're grateful for today. Small things, not my husband, my children, my family, my parents. No. My husband brought me a cup of coffee. It was delicious. We spent the day walking in Delray Beach at the art. Those are things that I wrote today. Small things. Why? You start looking, because you know that tomorrow morning you have to write 5 things. So you better have those 5 things. So you're all day long looking for things that you're grateful for. You start seeing life in a whole different perspective. Okay, going back, and I'm doing this really fast because of timing, but you can go to my lecture. It's about a 40-minute speech. Forgiveness. The first thing, you need to forgive yourself. And when it comes to forgiving other people, it's a topic for another thing. I don't believe that the word forgiveness means what people think it means. I don't believe that you need to forgive somebody who did something horrible to you and they never asked for forgiveness. You need to allow yourself to release yourself from that past, I don't think that the word is forgiveness. I think this is a bad word. A lot of people get stuck with finding joy because they can't forgive and they feel very guilty that they can't forgive. And I just think that the word forgiveness is used wrong. So until I develop my whole speech on forgiveness, I say start by forgiving yourself for your inadequacies, from your lack of perfection. Focus on that. And between those 10 things, they really help with the and patience. You need a lot of patience. I mean, that's the hardest part, is patience.
This is probably one of the most powerful lives I've ever done. I wish we could go on for hours. I know we're going to get a note in a second that it's done. I want to just see if I can get to any of the questions here. There was one that said, what is appropriate to be vulnerable with the child and what is not appropriate to be vulnerable with the child? And right under it, somebody said, my kids stated that they're starting to hear this too much, meaning that mommy's, not feeling up to whatever it is, right? So I think one of the things that we do have to realize is there are responsibilities as a parent. Granted, it's one of those things that we are, for sure, we do have responsibilities to our children, and regardless of what's going on in our lives, there are certain things that should be absolute boundaries that we don't cross. Sharing in a general way, I think, is very different than sharing in a detailed way. I think that's number one. And number two is that if it's something that your children are hearing very often, then you need to find a space to be able to grieve, or to be able to let go of something, or to be able to heal, so that when it comes to them, you will have that energy, because we're cars. We run on gas. I mean, if we don't fill our tanks and we don't do something for ourselves emotionally, then yeah, we risk the fact of being mothers who cannot provide emotionally. And that would be so sad for your children to have. And like, Miriam, like you were saying, we're raising mothers, we're raising fathers, and we want to be able to give them that kind of. So vulnerability, I think, in a more general sense, is what you were saying.
Exactly. Especially never, ever discuss if you're having problems with your husband to the children. To me, that's a big no-no. You resolve the problem with the other grown-up. But I think it's just, if it's going to be too much, you're just going to be a mother who's not raising the kids properly. I think it's certain moments, but if you will feed and nourish your soul and your spirit and your mind, you will have the strength when the kids come, and they are annoying and they're fighting. You will have the more tools to take care of them without always being vulnerable. But being vulnerable is not being complainer that you can't do this and you can't do that. That's not necessarily being vulnerable. It's just explain to your child that a parent is not a symbol of perfection. Parents also make mistakes, and parents also sometimes are tired or not feeling up to something. But that doesn't mean that we are not emotionally available for your children. You still need to be the strong one in the relationship to provide for them the security, because that's what kids want at home. They want to come home and feel safe and secure. And we have to give this to them. It's on us. Go to the bathroom, shut the door, put on the water, and cry to your heart's content. It works. It works.
I have to tell you, I really, really appreciate that you came on. We did this kind of last minute on the fly, but it's
my
so
pleasure.
Incredible. I think
if you ever
want a follow up that we're gonna have, but
we could do another one.
I think you know what it is. I think we started a conversation that we women have to have in person and out of person, but I think the respect for one another's vulnerabilities, the respect for our imperfections, the respect for our own imperfections is a great place to start. And that will truly bring out strength, because that's where real strength is.
Exactly. And if you need to do this again, I'll be happy to do this again if we have more questions.
I have a feeling we will.
Okay, sounds good.
Incredible. We're going to run out of time in a second. Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure.
I will try
it was
to
a
screen
pleasure.
record this